Getting ready to dive deep into the season 2 of The Mandalorian on the podcast here. We're going to give you episode recaps every week of the 8-episode second season. I'm pleased today to kick off this series with the host of Stanko Stance, the resident film critic of this podcast, and a big Star Wars fan, the great Jon Stanko. John, welcome back. How are you?
The Mandalorian is back, Michael. I'm doing very well. Woke up with a bit of a pep in my step this morning, knowing I had something to watch late morning. So I'm doing very well. Yourself?
I'm doing very good. I mean, that was the first thing I did today. I woke up as I popped on Disney Plus, watched the first episode. A little longer than I thought it was going to be, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I believe this is the longest episode of any episode that's been put out thus far. Yeah, I believe the longest last year was the season finale, and this was longer than that.
Yeah, I think the season finale is about 46 minutes. And I think this one was 54. I think the premiere was.
Yeah, it was almost an hour, and I think we're going to talk about it. It was longer, but for the most part, it did not drag at all. The time went by very fast, so I think more people than not are going to be very happy with the length of it.
Yeah, I think so too. Because the one thing I like about it, and we'll get to the spoilers in just a minute, is I think it moved. It didn't leave you sitting there dragging, looking at your watch, looking at your phone, saying how much longer it is. You really weren't left hanging there.
No, I would agree with you, and I think they did a very clever of the producers and Favreau and everyone involved that the opening 5 minutes was pretty much a ton of footage from the trailer. It was action packed. People immediately recognized the vibe and what they were into, and then after the title comes up with a Mandalorian and the martial title of the episode, then it dives into the brand new stuff. So very smart marketing by the Mandalorian and everyone involved with it to kind of grip everyone in with the action and then start setting the scene.
Yeah, for sure. And before we get into all of that, let's talk a little bit about season 1. What drew you into season 1 immediately?
What drew me into season 1, Mike, is that The Mandalorian is unlike any other Star Wars media out there. It's a Western that's set in the realm of science fiction, but also definitely has some noir kind of tendencies to it, and it blends genres incredibly well. My favorite example of this is, I believe it's episode 6 of season 1, when Mando goes onto the prison ship with a bunch of other mercenaries, gets backstabbed like he always does, and has to fight his way out. That episode was science fiction, Western, horror, all blended into one. So that's a really big part, is the way it blends genre. And I also, this is just me being honest, it's a huge sigh of relief that the idea of the Jedi are not a major talking point in the show. It's a complete clean palette from the rest of Star Wars, not only with the way it looks and the way it feels, but also in literally the story that it's telling. It's completely different. There's not as many strings attached to the major blockbuster cinema masterpieces that have been made. So those are kind of the two major reasons that I like it.
Yeah, I think it's obviously a good thing. I think if it's not messed up in all the Star Wars lore, sure there are Easter eggs in there and things that can help you if you know them. But I told our friend Alan Austin recently, I said, hey, this is a good show. You can jump right in without having seen any of the movies and you'll still have a good time.
Yes, I would agree. And I think the same goes for, you don't need to have seen all the TV shows, right, Mike? Because if you see Star Wars, Clone Wars, or Rebels, you are noticing so much more stuff than a normal person. For myself, another reason I like season 1 of The Mandalorian is because it kind of got me into Star Wars, Clone Wars, the animated series. Granted, I'll admit not having finished it yet because I fell off because it was a little bit too childish for me at times. But with that being said, season 1 of episode 1 of season 2 dropping today. I'm not going to lie, I turned on a little bit of Clone Wars this afternoon just to put something on in the background. So again, it's reinvigorated my interest in things that are not just the major motion pictures.
It certainly has. And before we dive into the premiere in detail, let's reset for the audience. Where did we leave off in season 1? Because obviously we end the season. The mission of the season starts off with the Mandalorian title character played by Pedro Pascal. He decides to take a bounty to basically bring this child, who we get to know as Baby Yoda in unofficial terms, to the Empire, breaks the child out and travels with him, trying to find his home at the end of the season. We see the Darksaber from an Imperial remnant come out, and he finds out that's something we'll dive into, I'm sure, as the season goes on. But what else stuck out from the end of season 1?
I think the end of season 1, I liked it how the Mandalorian was back on his own. That's kind of the last scene, is that he's taking the baby on a new quest with his creed to bring it back to his people. I liked it a lot when the Mandalorian was on its own in season 1, so they got back to that at least at the end of season 1, and now with the beginning of season 2, because he just introduced the characters, right? Every episode of season 1, it was kind of like a new character was introduced. You don't know if you're ever going to see them again, and a couple of them came back for the season finale, but a couple of them were just one-offs, and I kind of like that. A lot of people I talked to personally didn't love it when The Mandalorian was on its own because it felt too much like Star Trek, where it was just like an episode-by-episode story, but that's part of the reason I love this show. So that's really why I like the ending to season 1. But with that being said, the ending to season 1 also had a major shift with the Mandalorian taking off his helmet in front of the droid and him kind of softening his hard take on droids, if you will, which obviously he has those feelings because of the purge of his people when the Empire was sending droids to literally kill his village before he was saved by the Mandalorian. So you see that softness of his opinions on droids really, really come to fruition at the end of season 1 with the sacrifice of the nurse droid, who was revamped from episode 1, season 1. So those are kind of the two major things that came out. His softening on the droids, which I think is going to play a theme throughout this upcoming season. And it's also, he's just back on his own. He's going back to his own adventures. He's going to meet new people. And eventually we'll reconnect with his friends.
Yeah, he will. And now that we've set the stage a little bit, let's play the spoiler sound. All right, so if you have not watched Season 2, Episode 1 of The Mandalorian, get out of the podcast, go watch the episode, come back, because now John and I are going to go into all the spoilers. So we'll start from here. I mean, the opening sequence, man, that was just bang up when you see him go to this planet, try and get some information on finding Mandalorians. And like you said, it's basically the big fight from the trailer, and they did a good job just whetting your appetite with that and not giving away much of the plot, because basically that's the first 5 minutes. That whole sequence is over.
Yeah, it is. And I love this opening scene. I don't know if you've ever seen Escape from New York, Mike, but it reminded me of that movie. Have you seen that before?
I've seen it before.
Yeah, with Snake Plissken, and you have the desecrated city that is just graffiti everywhere. You have things hiding in the shadows where you want to stay in the light, you don't know what's out there. And then, I mean, I thought Snake Plissken was just going to appear out of the shadows. That's kind of what this whole vibe reminded me of. He also had a wrestling ring with a giant fight that was used as entertainment for everybody, which is, again, Escape from New York. So it really reminded me of that vibe. And again, like you said, it got people excited right away because it just hopped right into the action. Like, it was a great opening sequence. It immediately hooked people in. Also, very, very creative way to kill the guy who backstabbed him. Just letting the animal feast on him, shooting out the light. I was a fan of that kill.
Yeah, it was great, and it's a great visual too. When you see the lights go out, you see the red eyes from all like the ravenous like rat creatures. They're basically roaming around. They're gonna eat this guy at the end, and he says, Mando, basically like, I didn't say I would kill you. I love that. There's like deadpan line.
You will not die. Yeah, you will not die by my hand, and he was not lying. He was not lying. Those evil eyes reminded me of like the evil Cheshire Cat from Alice in Wonderland, just creepily staring out into the void. But it was a great opening sequence, and I really loved how there was a blatant wrestling shout-out, if you will, with a attacker blatantly doing a suicide dive off the top rope through a table, missing the Mandalorian, which is classic wrestling. Absolutely classic. So I saw that and immediately pointed it out to myself, going, that's a nice little touch of the director, just giving something to wrestling fans there.
Yeah, so the first 5 minutes we spend there. The rest of the episode is back on Tatooine. We spent, I think, a couple episodes in season 1 there. Were you surprised that we went back to Tatooine this early?
No, I was not, because I wasn't, because Tatooine is, frankly, it's the most popular and the most well-known planet in the Star Wars universe, right? But the thing is, we don't know a lot about Tatooine, right? We know Mos Eisley, we know where Luke grew up, we know some other outposts and stuff like that, but we don't know a lot about what happens outside the major cities and the major venues we've seen. And that's what The Mandalorian does. Like, it's taking away the shadow from everything that's unknown and kind of shining a light on like the darker points that have not been shown on. And that's why we went to this outskirt village in the middle of nowhere. We have to take a speeder bike to get to, and there's lack of resources everywhere. I loved it how they kind of expanded the Tatooine universe by going to the outskirts of it.
Were you happy to see Amy Sedaris' character back again?
I was. I mean, she was a funny character coming back. I do think she said the phrase "thanks the Force."
Yeah.
Which, to my recollection, like, was there ever a direct reference to the Force in season 1? I just rewatched it this past week. I didn't remember one. The Mandalorian, like, Mando doesn't, like, it kind of like doesn't register in his head. He just like lets it pass by like it's a phrase everyone uses. But that immediately jumped out to me when we were reintroduced to her.
Yeah, I remember they mentioned the Jedi once when they talked about how like there was a race of beings that did things. When Mando talks about how the child used magic to basically kill like to kill or free something in action. But I don't think we actually had the word the Force said before.
That's what I'm saying. I think this is the first time the words "the Force" were used in the Mandalorian, which is it's a huge. I mean, listen, the Force is the Force. It is essential Star Wars, so that's a huge kind of landmark on this in episode 1.
Yeah, and we get him there because he's looking for the Mandalorian he was told about in the first 5 minutes of the show. He heads to a town called Mos Pelgo, which he'd never heard of before. It was like basically a town in the middle of nowhere, one of those like seedy towns that you never really see. And we get there, we see a guy show up he's called the Marshal, we told by the bartender, and he shows up in Boba Fett's armor, but it's not Boba Fett, it's this guy named Cobb Vanth, played by Timothy Olyphant. So how pumped are you to see his role in this episode?
I mean, you hear his voice first, right, when he has the helmet on, and I was immediately like, oh, that's Timothy Olyphant. And I love Timothy Olyphant. I'm a huge fan, and I mean, the character kind of played to his tropes a little bit. Reminded me of the show he was on, Justified, where he played Raylan Givens, where he was a sheriff, a marshal, and was kind of snarky and a little bit of an attitude, didn't trust anyone. And he kind of played the same character, but maybe with more of a comedic spin. But I was very excited. And Timothy Olyphant's a little bit of a Western run, if you will. His most recent project, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, he was acting in a Western movie. Deadwood the movie, literally classic Western TV show, bought the movie, and now The Mandalorian. So he fits the Western genre well, and I think he played this part very well. And I hope that he comes back later this season. No guarantee of that, but I would not be upset to see him again.
Yeah, so anyway, he shows up. He reveals that basically he got this armor from Jawas. We see it in flashbacks, how he got the Boba Fett armor, but we have basically, they're going to fight each other over it, and you know that Mando is going to like basically kick his ass eventually, but they get distracted because the crate dragon comes in, just sweeps through the entire town, then kills like a bantha that's out there, and I have to say that's a deep pull for Star Wars. And the first time I actually heard of the crate dragon was there's a quest in the Knights of the Old Republic video game on Tatooine where you have to kill a crate dragon, so it was very interesting to see that reference being popped up again.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw the effect of the ground rising up and something underneath the ground going through the town, I immediately thought of Tremors. I don't know if you've seen the movie Tremors, early 90s, Kevin Bacon, but I immediately thought of that, and I could not stop thinking of Graboid. And that's basically what this was. It's so like Tremors. It's a desolate town set in a sand environment with a dwindling population, and nobody even knows is on the map, but these people need to band together, make them unruly alliances to defeat a monster that comes up from out of the ground and is threatening their livelihood. It's literally Tremors, but they just made it into Star Wars with the Crate Dragon. So I was a huge fan of immediately the vibe that they were going for with it. And it hooked me in even deeper.
Yeah, this was a fun ride the rest of the way, because this is basically the plot of the rest of the episode, is that those two make a deal where Cobb Vanth says, hey, I'll give you the armor if you help me get rid of the Crate Dragon. And then we also spent a lot of time actually getting to know the Sand People a little bit, who the Tusken Raiders, who Star Wars fans know back from episode 2, they're the ones who kill Anakin Skywalker's mother. We see them in episode 4, and are you surprised that Man knows how to communicate with them?
No, because he, I believe in episode 5 of season 1, with the gunslinger, when he is riding around with the bandit, trying to get the sniper assassin, is that he bargains with them in the desert. So they actually landed this little clue in season 1, and now season 2, they're able to even expand on it further and explore the culture of the Tusken Raiders, which I thought was really, really cool, because what are they known for? They're known for the yell and raising the pike up, going, whatever sound effect that is. That was terrible, by the way. That was awful. But I really liked how they explored the culture, and they very briefly explored the relationship between the humans on Tatooine and the Tusken Raiders. I mean, they classically say, humans say, oh, they attack our land. And meanwhile, the Tusken Raiders are like, we were here first. So it reminded me a lot of the relationship between elves and humans on the continent in the world of The Witcher. But they banded together to beat this dragon, and I really like how they explored the culture of it.
They did, and they gave you another subtle hint of that too, because on the way from when Mando leaves the Razor Crest, is on his way there, we see a brief cutaway of him camping at night with Tusken Raiders and conversing with them, and then you kind of first think, oh, it's a cutaway, and then you realize, oh, that's a big thrust of the whole episode. It
is, and again, it's opening the window into different areas of Star Wars that have not yet been explored, and again, huge fan of what Jon Favreau did writing and directing this episode and setting the tone.
Yeah, and I did think this episode as a whole sort of had very season 1 vibes, where it's sort of like, okay, here's a problem, here's our set of characters. Mando's going to sort of be the guy who brings two groups together, because he brings together the villagers and the sand people to combat this crate dragon, and the whole thing with, obviously you see the tension between the two sides, and when you see the one villager gets mad when the explosive gets dropped, he thinks the Sand Raider's trying to kill him. I think we get a good deal here from them. It's like, if you're the village and you get a deal, hey, like, they can keep the carcass of the crate dragon after we kill it, and they don't invade us again. I think it's a great deal for you to take.
Yeah, I think it's a great deal for the city too. And again, it's peace until the humans raise a pistol or raise a blaster at the Tusken Raiders. Which, listen, if we're gonna put a trait on humanity, it's that we're not the most reliable bunch. So the humans are probably gonna break that bond with the Tusken Raiders. Let's be real. But it was a win-win for both. So curious as actually, yeah, you're gonna get to the battle and stuff like that. But I have a question for you about what the Tusken Raiders may have been looking for when they got the husk of this dragon.
Yeah, they were taking a peek for the pearl of the dragon. That's something again that they've referenced in like Knights of the Old Republic, where there's one side where you have to kill a crate dragon to try and get inside a cave, and you're working with a bounty hunter, and he's basically going for the pearl, and you're going to get the star map.
So then there you go. That's what I was going to ask. I was like, is that a pearl that they're raising, or is that an egg? I wasn't entirely sure, but you answered that question for me with your knowledge of the Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah, that's a direct Knights of the Old Republic poll. Is that they're going for the pearl, the crate dragon? Which I think obviously you don't need to know that. You don't need to play the game to understand that. But it's a nice little nod to the people who follow the expanded Star Wars continuity over the years. Yeah,
that's great. That's phenomenal writing. Again, it doesn't need to be flashy to be good. It can be subtle, which is the way the Mandalorian thrives.
Yeah, so we see earlier at the battle plan, first they try and get him out there and see how big it is. The plan doesn't work. A Tusken Raider dies, and then we realize we need to get the entire villages involved. We need to blow up underneath the belly because it's the most susceptible area. The plan particularly doesn't work, and then Mando has this brilliant idea. We're going to have him eat the bantha and blow up the bantha inside of him. So great job there, and I think it was an interesting choice that he trusted Cobb Vanth to care for the child in case it didn't work.
Yeah, I would agree. But again, this is the only gripe I really have with the episode, Mike, is that I thought this ending was incredibly predictable. Because when the humans and the Tusken Raiders are walking together toward the pit of the dragon, there's a blatant shot of a bantha with explosives strapped on it. And I saw it and I was like, that's how they're going to kill it. Because it's going to explode in the mouth or whatever. It's going to be like Jaws, where the big explosion is going to blow it up from the inside. That's kind of exactly what happened. So I was a little bit bummed with how predictable they made it. I think they dropped a few too many hints with it. So that's the only gripe I have, is that I wasn't completely and utterly surprised and satisfied with the way the dragon was killed.
Yeah, that one they did telegraph it a mile away if you know what you're looking for there. But I thought the whole battle with the crate dragon was definitely a lot of fun, seeing all the different groups having to work together and seeing all the different weapons they're throwing at it. I thought it was definitely a unique way of fighting we don't usually see in the Star Wars universe either.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the medieval hooks that the Tusken Raiders had was a very just a different vibe than the blasters that the humans had. So just a different way of approaching the battle. And I don't know how those medieval wooden spikes would hold that dragon down, but they seem to do the job all right. And like the battle when you had the Marshal and Mando on their jetpacks and flying onto the mountain to try and just convince the dragon to keep moving forward, and because it wasn't dead yet. Like, that was all good stuff. I love also, I think there was a slight reference, it reminded me of Jurassic Park with the dragon, his eyes, the profile view, just shifting and starting to look at the Marshal and Mando. Reminded me a lot of the Jurassic Park Tyrannosaurus Rex. So I think that maybe there was a little nod there as well. But again, the fight overall was very entertaining. No budget concerns at all, because they spent so much money making this look good, and it did look really, really good. The dragon was very, very good.
Yeah, there's a fantastic looking dragon. At the end, we do see the exchange happen. Mando gets Boba Fett's armor, and Cobb Vanth gets the dragon killed. He's basically keeping an eye on his village now. He's still the marshal of it. He's the one who basically has kept order in there after a group of, I think I want to say, evil miners took over following the fall of the Empire. Do you think we'll see Timothy Olyphant again by the end of the season?
I'm going to be honest. The answer is no, and I'm okay with that. I would love to see him again, but I think this is one of those one-offs. We just meet a character that we really like and that we'll remember fondly, but I don't think we're going to see him again.
Yeah, I could see it both ways. I do think he's such a big name that I could say, okay, maybe we'll just bring him in for the finale to help out whatever mission we need going on, but I don't think we'd see him again before that. I think he's going to be, there's also a good chance he's one and done.
Honestly, if we see him again, I can imagine we see him dead. Like the village was wiped out and Mando was like, oh no, what have I done? I left them and now they're dead. Kind of some sort of moment like that. But I don't think we're going to see him on another mission again or anything like that. That's kind of the vibe that I'm going for. Because now, I mean, he had Boba Fett's armor. Now Mando has it, and I think at the end of the episode, we saw kind of what meeting is going to happen soon that everyone's excited for. And I think that's going to be a sell for the Marshal in terms of action stuff.
Yeah, so we leave him behind. We see Mando leaving with the armor. Then we see off screen, we see watching from above, we see Tamura Morrison, who played, I want to say he played Jango Fett, and is obviously the model for all the clones, including Boba Fett. So the Boba Fett theories a long time ago for fans of Episode 6 who've been arguing, oh, he escaped the Sarlacc. Now we have proof he did.
Yeah, I mean, we have proof he did. I think that was canon, though, in the Star Wars comics and stuff like that and other media. So, but now it's coming to the more mainstream, if you will. And I do think, we got the hint of Boba Fett, again, with the Gunslinger episode in Season 1, when you just saw that boot come on the final screen, the final shot of that episode, episode 5. So, again, because that episode was set on Tatooine, so it would make a lot of sense. So I think that Boba Fett kind of has a sense of this Mandalorian because he knows a little bit of the history. He obviously watched them take down the dragon, and Boba Fett and the Mandalorian do it kind of on his own, be the hero and be the martyr. And he also knows that he took down a deadly assassin in Season 1, or at least he has a body from it, so he can kind of infer. So I think that Boba Fett's going to come in with some knowledge of the Mandalorian that the Mandalorian's going to be surprised about.
Yeah, I also think that the thing with Boba Fett that's interesting is that, this character sort of this big mythological pull with the Star Wars fans because he has such the badass suit in Episode 5, but we don't really know anything about him because, I mean, he gets killed in Episode 6 unceremoniously. He shows up a kid Episode 2. We don't see him again. So there's basically a blank slate, this very iconic character.
There is. And I think, again, this is something where Favreau can write in something that's really intriguing. But I hope they don't overexpose it, Mike. I think I told you in the beginning how The Mandalorian, the TV show, is a clean slate, and it's not connected to the majority of the Star Wars universe that people know. It's very different and isolated. I don't want them bleeding too much into what the fans want and recognize. I still want them to have that individuality. So I hope it's a one-episode thing. I hope it's not too long-lasting.
Yeah, I think this could be where we go Episode 2, because I think I could see them staying on Tatooine and having Boba Fett follow him, or we could be bolder and just push it off a little bit. Maybe have him end up back on Tatooine or have Boba Fett follow him for a little bit before they meet up again.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to meet up this episode. Again, what I think is that the Mandalorian Mando is going to end up back on Tatooine somewhere later in the season. He's going to go back to the Marshal's village. He's going to see that it's destroyed, and then he's going to turn around, and Boba Fett's going to be there, and the shot is going to be like a Western duel where they're going to have the high angle with the space between them, with the sand, and then just standing there like sizing each other up. That's what I imagine is going to happen. Not next episode, but down the road.
Yeah, I do think there's a good chance he's a one-episode character. I think they just basically tell his story and let him exist in the universe and leave him alone, that they can pull him later if they want to.
Yep, that's what I think is going to happen, and I hope that that's the case. Don't give us too much. Because, again, with this episode 1, you know what we didn't see a lot of? We didn't see a ton of Baby Yoda. We didn't see Baby Yoda with his powers, and I love that. Keep that, because that's what people want to see. That's the hook that got so many people into season 1, is the development of Baby Yoda's the child powers and stuff like that, and what can it do, and it looks so cute. We didn't get a ton of it in this premiere, so it's good. They're keeping it away from the audience, and they're keeping the audience hungry for it.
Yeah, because he does a couple of fun little moments there, like when he pops back into his pod when he knows the fight's about to go down, and we see him kind of like creeping around when they're trying to kill the crate dragon, but they do a good job of realizing that this is still the show about the Mandalorian, not the Baby Yoda show. So they're doing a good job giving you bits and pieces of the Baby Yoda character.
Yeah, they didn't bite into the commercialism of Star Wars too much in this premiere, which I'm a huge fan of.
Yeah, we knew this was the deal with this whole series, because remember back when the original one came out back in October, nobody knew Baby Yoda was coming last year. So we had this whole opportunity for Christmas season merch of Baby Yoda that they convinced Disney not to pursue to keep the secret. So this is a group that values the storytelling over the merchandising opportunities.
Yeah, and listen, there's going to be plenty of money made from this show, and you look at the budget and you look at the way that episode looks, Disney has dropped a ton of eggs in this basket, so they're just hoping it doesn't crack. Because once things get back to normal, there's going to be a Mandalorian ride at Disney World, whatever Disney park they want, and they're going to sell as many toys and dolls as possible.
Oh, they absolutely are, and I do think it's going to be fun to track how the season goes. The same length of episodes. We have 8 episodes here like we did in season 1, and I do think I think we'll have a lot of these side missions before we get sort of a group assembled at the end for a big thing. My question theory is this. Obviously, we're talking at the beginning of the season. I'm hoping to get you back around the finale. So do you think we will get to Baby Yoda's people this season? You think it's going to be a mystery they leave for season 3?
I think it's going to be a mystery that they leave for season 3. That's what I think. I think that they'll get to around some Jedi, and they'll maybe get to around like that sort of, if you want to refer to the child people as people who are force sensitive. I think we will meet more of those people, but in terms of the species itself, I don't think we're going to meet them until later down the road in this series as a whole.
Yeah, it will be fun, and I'm going to, obviously, I mentioned on top here, I'm going to do weekly coverage of The Mandalorian. Next week, our good buddy Pete Considori is going to be on to do episode 2.
Yeah, well, there you go. I mean, Pete's a big fan. I know he definitely watched it today, so he's going to come in with his hot take. How many hockey analogies is he going to make during the episode? One can never know. But yeah, no, for sure. You definitely got to give that a listen.
Yeah, it's going to be coming out like this every week. What's going to happen with this is we're going to recap it on the podcast every week. It'll come out with the regular episodes most occasions, but the video version is going to be up on YouTube on the day we record, so that you don't have to wait that long. You really want to get the Mandalorian takes right now.
Listen, there's a hunger for it right now, so you got to feast on it while you can. It's one of those few shows that still releases weekly, Mike, and I think it's one of the smartest things that Disney Plus has done is because they're containing the culture for as long as they possibly can. With people trapped inside now, not as many sports happening, they're taking advantage of it.
They absolutely are. John, thanks for all the time. I really appreciate it. How can people follow on social media to this if they want to keep up with you? And how about Stanko's stance?
You can follow me on social media at jstanko99 on all social media platforms. I've been updating a little bit more on stankosstance.wordpress.com. Got some stuff up there. And yeah, I mean, feel free to hit me up. I'm always on Twitter. I'm on Twitter all the time.
Yes, thanks, John, for coming on for this part. Before, we're going to keep going with our Halloween pop culture party here. I will be joined by Sandra Rosa in just a minute to talk about The Haunting of Bly Manor. I know you have not finished the show yet, but what are your impressions this far?
Yeah, I'm 5 episodes in. It is very good thus far. Again, it's exceptionally well made and well written, which I'm a huge fan of. This season is not as scary as Hill House, in my opinion, thus far. Now, granted, I have not reached the climax yet, so that may change. But I wholeheartedly endorse it, especially episode 5. Episode 5 It confused my girlfriend watching it, but it also touched her emotionally. And for me, it was definitely the best Maze episode of the season thus far. So I'm a little bit more than halfway through. Definitely going to finish it probably this weekend with the Halloween setting that we have, and wholeheartedly endorse.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly endorse it as well. I'm going to give you a piece of advice, sir. I finished it. Episode 8 will give Episode 5 a run for its money in terms of structure, in terms of the theme. But for more of this conversation, more on Haunting of Bly Manor, you can listen to my conversation with Sam DeRosa right after this.